You didn't say anything crazy. You didn't overshare your entire life story. You didn't cry, beg, or fall apart. You just opened up. You showed a real part of yourself. And somehow, after that moment, the energy changed. Her replies got shorter. The warmth faded. The effort dropped. And now you're sitting there replaying the conversation, wondering how honesty turned into distance. This is where most men get it wrong. They assume opening up is the mistake. They tell themselves, "I should have stayed quiet," or "Women don't want emotional men." But that's not the full truth. The issue isn't vulnerability itself. It's how, when, and from what position it comes. Women don't lose interest because a man has depth. They lose interest when vulnerability collapses his frame, when it feels like emotional weight instead of emotional strength. When openness looks like uncertainty, not self-awareness. And the brutal part? Most men are never taught the difference. In this video, we're going to break down exactly why she lost interest after you opened up, what she subconsciously felt in that moment, and how to express emotion in a way that actually builds attraction instead of killing it. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming grounded. So when you do open up, it lands with weight, not weakness. When you opened up, what she felt wasn't your emotion. It was your stability underneath it. Women don't respond to words the way men do. They respond to state, to presence, to whether the man in front of them still feels solid while expressing something real. If vulnerability comes from a place of self-awareness, ownership, and composure, it creates connection. But if it comes from unresolved pain, confusion, or a need to be reassured, it subtly flips the dynamic. Not because she's cruel or shallow, but because her nervous system starts asking a different question. Can this man hold himself? Here's the part most men miss. Opening up is not neutral. It either confirms your strength or exposes a crack in your frame. If you shared something, and underneath it, there was an unspoken hope that she would fix the feeling. If your tone shifted from grounded to searching, if your openness carried pressure, even quietly, she didn't hear honesty. She felt emotional weight. And emotional weight without grounding registers as instability. That's why the shift feels so sudden. Nothing bad happened. No rule was broken. But her perception changed. Attraction isn't logical. It's responsive. The moment vulnerability feels like a burden instead of a window, interest begins to leak. This doesn't mean men shouldn't open up. It means vulnerability must be contained, not dumped. Expressed, not offloaded. Shared from a place of, "This is something I've integrated," not, "This is something I need help carrying." When a man opens up while staying centered, it deepens trust. When he opens up while subtly unanchored, it creates distance. And the tragedy is this. Most men think the solution is silence, when the real solution is inner regulation. What actually pushes her away isn't that you showed emotion. It's that your openness changed the emotional gravity of the interaction. Attraction is sensitive to pressure. The moment emotional expression carries expectation, it stops feeling intimate and starts feeling heavy. Most men don't realize this is happening because the pressure isn't spoken. It's energetic. It lives underneath the words. Pressure sounds like incarcerengolo reassurance without asking for it, hoping vulnerability will secure closeness, meeting her response to regulate how you feel. From your side, it feels human. From hers, it feels like responsibility. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Attraction doesn't grow when someone feels responsible for your emotional balance. Not because women lack empathy, but because desire needs freedom. It needs to feel like she's choosing you, not stabilizing you. When you opened up, if she sensed that your emotional state now depended on how she reacted, even subtly, the dynamic shifted. She stopped feeling like a partner and started feeling like an anchor. That doesn't make her bad. It makes her responsive to emotional load. This is why men get confused. They hear, "be emotionally open," but they're never taught how. So they confuse vulnerability with disclosure. They confuse honesty with unloading. And when attraction fades, they think honesty was the mistake. It wasn't. The mistake was letting emotional expression collapse your frame instead of coming from it. Strong vulnerability says, "This is something I've faced, understood, and carry responsibly." Unstable vulnerability says, "This is unresolved, and I need you inside it with me." One invites connection, the other invites distance. And once pressure enters the emotional space, attraction doesn't argue, it simply withdraws. That's why she didn't explain. That's why things felt colder without a clear reason. Her system didn't reject your honesty. It reacted to the weight it carried. The fix isn't shutting down. It's learning how to stay regulated while being real. That's where attraction actually lives. What made this situation sting wasn't just that she pulled back. It's how quietly it happened. No argument, no explanation, just distance. And that silence triggers a specific fear in men. The feeling of being emotionally exposed and then left alone with it. Here's what's really going on. When you opened up, you revealed something real. That takes courage. But in doing so, you also gave her access to a part of you that wasn't fully grounded yet. Once that door was open, she could feel the imbalance. And the moment she sensed that you were more emotionally invested than she was, her nervous system did what it's wired to do. It moved toward safety. Pulling away wasn't a punishment. It was a regulation response. This is where most men misunderstand women. They assume attraction fades because of something said. In reality, attraction fades when the emotional investment becomes uneven. When one person feels like they're holding more emotional weight than the other, the dynamic tilts, and the person holding less weight almost always steps back. From her side, distance restores balance. From your side, it feels like abandonment. That mismatch is brutal. And here's the part no one tells men. The more emotionally available you are without equal grounding, the safer it feels for her to disengage. Why? Because she knows you'll survive it. You already showed resilience. You already showed depth. So paradoxically, your strength made her feel less urgency to stay close. This is why she didn't chase clarity or talk it through. Her system already decided the safest move was space. Not because she didn't care, but because she didn't feel pulled forward anymore. And that's the core wound men experience here. It's not, "I opened up and she left." It's, "I finally showed something real and it didn't anchor her." That hits the ego. It hits identity. It makes men question whether vulnerability is even worth it. But the truth is more precise than that. Vulnerability doesn't create attraction by itself. It amplifies whatever structure already exists. If your life, purpose, boundaries, and self-direction are solid, vulnerability deepens attraction. If they're still forming, vulnerability exposes the imbalance. That's why the pullback felt so sudden. You didn't lose her because you opened up. You revealed where your foundation still needed reinforcement. And once she felt that, she didn't need to argue or explain. Distance did the work for her. The lesson here isn't to harden yourself. It's to stop making emotional openness the only pillar of connection. Because attraction doesn't stay where depth exists alone. It stays where depth is supported by stability. This is where most men draw the wrong conclusion. They tell themselves, "I shouldn't open up again." They mistake timing for weakness. They confuse grounding with emotional shutdown. And that's how men go from exposed to guarded to emotionally unavailable. But the real lesson here is sharper than that. It's not that opening up was a mistake. It's that emotional depth has to come after emotional stability, not before it. When you shared how you felt, you weren't wrong. You were just early. Early relative to the strength of the dynamic. Early relative to how anchored you were in yourself at that moment. Emotional openness is powerful, but only when it's carried by a man who doesn't need it to be received a certain way. That's the distinction. A grounded man can open up and remain unchanged by the response. An ungrounded man opens up, hoping the response will steady him. Women feel that difference instantly, not logically, but somatically. So when she pulled away, it wasn't because vulnerability repelled her. It was because the vulnerability arrived before the frame was unshakable. This is why emotionally mature men don't rush depth. They let attraction and trust build around a solid core. They speak honestly, but not urgently. They share, but not to secure reassurance. They open up, but their identity doesn't hinge on being held. And here's the key shift you need to make. Stop asking, "Should I be vulnerable?" Start asking, "Am I stable enough that my vulnerability doesn't cost me leverage?" Because when you are, something changes completely. If she leans in, connection deepens. If she leans back, nothing collapses. That's real emotional power. You don't need to suppress your feelings. You need to contain them inside a life that's already moving forward. When your direction is clear, your boundaries are intact, and your sense of self doesn't wobble, vulnerability stops being risky. It becomes optional. And optional vulnerability is what builds attraction, not desperation. That's the lesson she unknowingly handed you. Not to close your heart, but to build a stronger structure around it. So if you've ever opened up and watched her pull away, don't walk away from this with the wrong story. The answer isn't to harden yourself. It isn't to become cold, distant, or emotionally numb. And it definitely isn't to pretend you don't feel anything. The answer is order. Order in your life. Order in your direction. Order in your identity. When a man has momentum, purpose, and self-respect anchored into his daily actions, his emotions stop being a liability. They become information, not something he bleeds out hoping to be held. That's when vulnerability stops costing you attraction. That's when honesty stops feeling dangerous. That's when connection deepens instead of collapses. You don't lose women because you're emotional. You lose leverage when emotion shows up before stability. Build the man first, then share the depth. If you're learning how to do that, how to rebuild yourself without shutting down, how to stay open without losing your frame, hit follow. This is where men learn to lead with strength, not fear.